What I love about these ladies and the others working in the courtyard at Yirrkala is that they've really opened up the realm of what Yolngu art can be, and I can't wait to see what Yolngu art will look like in the future. My name is Erin Vink. I'm the Assistant Curator of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Art at the Art Gallery of New South Wales. Today I'm really excited to take you behind the scenes. We're in one of the painting storage rooms in our storage unit, and I'm really excited to show you what's inside this box. Today I'm here to talk to you about two of my favourite artists from Yirrkala, a small community in northeast Arnhem Land, Nyapanyapa Yunupiŋu and Noŋgirrŋa Marawili, and they're often referred to as the Courtyard ladies. They're two of the most diverse and influential artists working out of Yirrkala, and the reason why we're looking at their works today is because they're so successful in challenging the preconceptions of what Aboriginal art should be and what Aboriginal art can be. So Nyapanyapa is one of the most senior women artists working at Bukulange Mulka Art Centre, and she was born about 1945. She's the daughter of Noŋgirrŋa Yunupiŋu, who was a great Yolngu cultural leader and an artist himself. This work that I have here to show you today is called Airlift to Darwin Hospital. It's a 2008 work by Nyapanyapa Yunupiŋu, and it's one of the earliest works that she began painting on bark. It was a really important story from Nyapanyapa's own personal life, and it's a recount from 1975 when Nyapanyapa was about 30 years old, and she was in a wild apple orchard picking apples, and she was nearly killed. She was charged at by a water buffalo and quite violently gouged. And so Nyapanyapa was airlifted to Darwin Hospital, and we can see this scene playing out here. So here's the aeroplane taking Nyapanyapa to hospital, and to the right you can see the form of the water buffalo. It's a really interesting work because there's a whole variety of figures that kind of spread across the bark, but what I think is really interesting here is Nyapanyapa's actually depicted herself in her hospital bed while she's recovering, and some of these figures we can imagine are her sisters visiting her while she was recovering. So Nyapanyapa began her career as a printmaker. She began exhibiting in 1998, and she's a very experimental artist. At the core of her practice as a printmaker, she was really interested in the act of making a line or making a mark. And we see that mark making across her printmaking and into her painting. And I think that's why her work is so exciting. It's quite evident here in this painting where you can see these kind of loose cross-hatchings or raak. So you can really see that drive to experiment and push the act of line making. She chooses not to paint the clan stories which she's inherited, which is quite brave, and it was a very bold move when Nyapanyapa began painting. And this was a really groundbreaking moment at the time for Yolngu art, because there hadn't been an Aboriginal artist to come forward and say, this is my art practice and I'm painting predominantly for me, and I'm painting my own stories rather than the inherited stories that she had from her clan. This was a really defining moment in Nyapanyapa's life, and it's a story which she's revisited constantly throughout her career. So we're going to look at another work now that tells a story from a different perspective. So this work here is Wild Apple Orchard, also a 2008 work. What's really interesting is that Nyapanyapa is presenting a different aspect of the story to us in this painting. So we have quite a calm, earlier setting to the story where Nyapanyapa's in the wild apple orchard with her family having a lovely day, and the movement in her mark making, it seems quite calm, and she's taken her time to make that beautiful cross hatching you see here, and it gives this work a real sense of buoyancy. Whereas in this work we can see it's kind of the ultimate point of the story where Nyapanyapa's been wounded and she's been airlifted, and so there's a real sense of energy to this work. It's a lot more chaotic in a sense of how she's laid down her lines. So looking at the tone in these two works, while it's quite different, it's clear that Nyapanyapa's really interested still in that act of mark making, and we see the culmination of this interest in her 2010 work, Meili Miru. This is a larakich, which means hollow log in Yolngu. This is an important work because this is the moment when Nyapanyapa does away with the personal histories and the figurative elements which she was presenting to us in her earlier works and in her actively avoiding those clan stories which she's inherited. And it's really at its core just about making a mark and making these different fields of colour where she's experimenting with different ochres and different tones to kind of give us this beautiful sense of the different type of marks that we could see in a landscape. So this is the work of Noŋgirrŋa Marawili. She's a really exceptional artist, also working in Yirrkala with Nyapanyapa. They're often referred to as the Courtyard ladies or the old ladies of the Courtyard because they literally sit in the courtyard of the art centre in Yirrkala and paint outdoors side by side. So Noŋgirrŋa Marawili, she was born about 1939 and her father was Mundukul Marawili, who was one of the Marapa clan leaders and also a great warrior. Noŋgirrŋa began painting in the 1990s. First she began to assist her husband, Mr. Mununga, who is a famous artist in his own right. He would tend to paint the clan designs relevant to him and Noŋgirrŋa would do the cross-hatching infill for the rest of the background of the painting. So while she's been painting with conviction since the 1990s, she didn't begin to really paint under her own name until 2005, and it wasn't until 2011 that Noŋgirrŋa began painting prolifically. What she's really interested in is the atmospherics of country and how her country comes alive through water, wind, lightning and other unseen forces. In this work, Noŋgirrŋa is presenting us the site of Barratjala during a lightning storm. Barratjala is a really sacred site for the Marapa and Noŋgirrŋa has permission to paint this. It's a beautiful landscape near the ocean and it's dotted with these big black bouldered rocks, such as the one we're seeing here, and most of them are covered with barnacles, which we can see here too, and also oysters. And this particular scene that Noŋgirrŋa is presenting to us is that site during a storm in wet season, and you can see the energy flowing across the painting here. These are the lightning strikes, and up here we can see these dots are the beautiful sea spray that you can imagine with the choppy weather. You also see Noŋgirrŋa's interest in the natural world in this second work titled Lightning and Sea Spray. Here you can see again two rocks and you can see the lightning ricocheting off the rocks, generating this sea spray which is heading out into the open water. What's really interesting about this work is that while Noŋgirrŋa actively avoids her clan stories and her clan designs, you can see elements of it coming through in her work. So this beautiful zigzagging pattern that the lightning is making is quite reminiscent of the Marapa design for fresh and salt water. So while we see evidence of Noŋgirrŋa's clan designs in this work, 4 years later, we really see Noŋgirrŋa really stepping away from these clan designs and really more just experimenting with presenting us a story of the country she sees and how she experiences it. What I love about these ladies and the others working in the courtyard at Yirrkala is that they've really opened up the realm of what Yolngu art can be, and it's really exciting to see the opportunities that they've opened up for younger artists, and I can't wait to see what Yolngu art will look like in the future.